Hey everybody, welcome to the Toy Box. I'm your host, Andrew M. Sorry for the late video this week. I am recovering from an injury, but the show must go on. And so today I'm going to be doing a spotlight on a figure from my collection that I think doesn't get enough press. That's right. I don't think that the Apocalypse gets quite enough press for just how awesome of a figure he was back in the day. The 2004 Marvel Legends Apocalypse by Toy Biz is part of the golden age and absolutely the gold standard of action figure design and execution. This is a fantastic figure from head to toe. First and foremost, the character of Ensabanur, better known as Apocalypse, is from the Marvel X-Men comics. He debuted approximately 1986, so he doesn't have a long-standing history with the franchise's other mainstays like Wolverine or Magneto or the originals. Beast, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Professor X. But he's definitely become one of the most popular villains of the X-Men mythology. He is said to be the first mutant born on planet Earth. He is thousands of years old, and his list of abilities is incredibly long. He can regenerate, teleport. He has control over this strange alien technology that he's sort of merged himself with. He can transfer his consciousness between one body and another. There's a bunch of different things he can do. He can change his own physical size at will, which is an incredible power. And he's one of my favorite X-Men villains because he doesn't do small scheme. This is a big, huge threat type villain, the kind of X-Men villain character that can make the likes of Professor X's X-Men and Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants team up to take him on, because he is a threat to the entire world, to not only all of humanity, but all of mutant kind as well. He wishes to dominate all living beings on the planet, human, mutant alike. He does view himself as something superior and does wish to enslave or exterminate all of humanity. I can't imagine him being much of a friend of the Sentinels, to put it lightly, but I also can't imagine him wanting to get involved too much more so be the type to see who wins and then deal with whoever's left in that type of situation. As for the figure itself, as I opened up with, this figure is terrific. The old Marvel Legends figures are something that any action figure manufacturer or producer is trying to live up to even today. This figure is 14 years old, but he easily surpasses the quality of almost anything I've seen available at retail or even specialty shops for quite some time. And so let's run him down. First of all, the character is very tall. This is a very big figure. He's meant to be 6-inch scale, but I'm going to put a 6-inch Spider-Man into the frame, and as you can see, Apocalypse is a full head taller. He's about 7, almost 7.5 inches taller. And look at the size of his arms compared to Spidey. I mean, I know Spidey isn't meant to be very big, muscular. He's kind of a wiry guy, but look at the massive tree trunk type limbs this guy has. He's huge. He exudes that kind of power, and I think that that is so well brought forth in this particular version of the figure. Articulation-wise, of course, this guy does it all. The head is on a ball joint. He can look up and down, side to side. The neck is on a separate joint, actually inside the collar here. So when you turn the head, the neck tends to do the whole turn. But you can move them separately. A little stiff, but that's okay, because I don't find I really want to move Apocalypse's head a whole lot. The shoulder pads here are rubber for some reason. They're a soft, pliable material. They don't get in the way of any kind of articulation. His arms, shoulders on ball joints, they can go all the way out. Full range of motion there. These hoses in the back, which are actually separate detachable pieces, but not really accessories as such, do hinder that articulation, but I don't find it to be a problem with this particular character. There isn't really a reason I'd want him to have more range of motion than he presently has, which is very good. Bend at the elbow, both arms. Swivel at the wrist, both hands. And the fingers are where things get a little bit strange for me. Now, on his left hand, obviously the thumb goes up and down like that. The index finger is separately articulated from the rest of the hand, and I can't figure out why. Because, of course, the other fingers are all together, and when you press everything closed, he makes a really, really good fist, either for threatening or punching or whatever. The other hand has a very similar scheme. It's got the same, main three fingers are all together. The index finger is separate. The thumb is separate, but it's more of a pointing, like he's addressing or perhaps even projecting an energy blast in an offhanded, I don't care kind of way. It works. I like it well enough, but I still have to admit that as much as I love this figure and the articulation is incredible, I don't understand what they were going for with the individually articulated index finger on the fist hand. I would have been comfortable, actually, with just a closed fist and not even have that hand articulation. But on a figure this size, it's not loose, it doesn't feel fragile, it's very, very sturdy. So they threw it in, and I don't have a problem with that. Moving down the torso, there is a torso swivel. This is weird. Torso swivel on top of the waist swivel. If you can see this, I'm actually twisting the waist of the figure, and it's separate. There's two separate pieces there. This gives him an incredible range of motion when you want to pose him in any kind of action pose, any kind of interaction with other figures. He's very dynamic. He can assume almost any posture that you really want him to. Then he's got his legs he's got the ball joint at the hip. So the legs all the way front and back. You can get him in a really good wide sitting pose if you wanted to. You can get him to sit straight down, no problem. He has double jointed knees, which is a nice touch. The elbows, I should mention, although most Marvel Legends were, his are not double jointed, they're just a single swivel. Double jointed knees, so you can really get him to walk or stand however you wish. There is a boot cut. He can swivel his feet like that. Also swivel at the ankle. And another articulation point that I don't quite understand, but they threw it in there, is his toes. Now, actually, on mine, the left foot is a little loose, but it is not important to the figure's balance. So the articulation point is there, and it almost looks like it would be make it a problem for this guy to stand up straight, but it doesn't. He stands just fine. As for the paint job and application, it's really good. Mine does actually have a problem with the shoulder pad on the right side. There's some silver paint that seems to have been splashed on there. I'm not sure if that's something I can take off or whether it's something I would reveal more if I tried to strip the paint with some nail polish remover, which is actually what I use if I need to do any small paint corrections on figures and toys in my collection. It's infinitely useful. Hairdryer, nail polish remover, toothpicks. It's amazing what little things I use to amend and fix my figures. In terms of a personal history with this one, I've owned him since he came out. I was very excited to get a lot of these old Marvel Legends figures when they were first coming out, and I love the fact that they were in scale with each other, like you can tell from that Spider-Man that I had out a few moments ago, which is from the same year, 2004. The larger characters were plussed up, scaled up, so they were, as large as they needed to be. He's much bigger than Wolverine. He's much bigger than, other X-Men characters that he would likely interact with. I have a 2004 Gambit, who is about the same size as Spider-Man, basically, and Apocalypse dwarfs him a little bit. It's not your 12-foot huge Apocalypse. They actually did release that in Marvel Legends in this scale, and there's been a recent one re-released as a Build-A-Figure. He's a bit taller again. But I like this one. This is a more manageable, usable, interactable Apocalypse figure. And, for one of the most, I think, visually striking of the X-Men villains, This particular version of the character really stands out. Even on my shelves downstairs, he really stands out because, of course, he's so much bigger than other figures around him, but not so huge as to need to go up on the top shelves with all of my giant, foot-tall figures or whatnot. I think he might stand just under 8 inches. I got to bring a measuring tape for my next video. I hope all of you out there like, share, subscribe, and comment to remind me to do so. And that's my look at Apocalypse. A little less in-depth because I'm feeling a little under the weather these days, but hopefully next week's video I can do a more in-depth look at another figure from my collection or another piece from my collection. Hoping to hear from some of you guys out there and what you'd like to see. Until then, have a great time in Toyland.